30 years, the History Department has been inviting gifted young scholars into its honors program. Students in this year's distinguished cohort participated in a junior honors colloquium and a senior capstone, followed by an independent study with their advisors to produce an honors thesis. We celebrate these scholars' achievements, and we are proud to have them presenting their research.
Hello, my name is Katie Rogers, and I'm a History and German double major. My honors thesis is entitled A Revolution of Romance and was advised by Dr. Schachenbach-Ragela and Dr. Hamlin. My thesis examines conceptions of romantic love in 18th century relationships and how that sort of romantic rhetoric influenced patriotic propaganda during the American Revolution. In doing so, I argue that by focusing on the importance of friendship, mutuality, and especially emotion within romantic relationships, American patriots took those same romantic themes and applied them to their political propaganda as a way to garner support for their cause on a more personal and emotional level. I argue further that by romanticizing their cause with this kind of rhetoric, patriots shaped their values into something more profound because they were grounded in deeper emotion and sympathy for their fellow Americans. They then used this to establish an early American identity that prioritized feeling for others, completely separate from the unfeeling British, both as they fought for independence and as they constructed the new United States as a nation. In order to look more closely at what specific romantic themes were being used to do this, I had to examine what romantic love between couples looked like during the Revolutionary era, and if and how it changed over the course of the 18th century. This subtopic is where I came across my favorite piece of evidence. It's a letter from Alexander Hamilton to Elizabeth Schuyler dated from October of 1780, so about 2 months before they were married. In it, he tells her that a spirit entering into bliss cannot long more ardently for enjoyment than I do, my darling Betsy, to taste the heaven that awaits me in your bosom, and then asks, is my language too strong? It is a feeble picture of my feelings. No words can tell you how much I love and long. You will only know it when wrapped in each other's arms, we give and take those delicious caresses which love inspires and marriage sanctifies. Aside from being a cute love letter that put a smile on my face, this piece was one of the first sources I came across that demonstrated a more passionate and emotional example of romantic love between a couple during the time period in question. From there, I found that earlier perceptions of love were grounded in more stoic and religious metaphors rather than in actual emotion and feeling for another person, and that only around the mid to late 18th century did that begin to shift in light of larger Enlightenment era ways of thinking concerning sensibility and sentimentality. Having this background then helps set the stage for me to look at how this kind of emotional and passionate rhetoric that Hamilton used in conveying his love translated into romanticized political literature, which I found often was used to personify the idea of liberty or America into a person, usually a woman, with who their audience had an intimate relationship with, and as a way to appeal to them on a more sentimental level.
Katie's thesis builds on the groundbreaking work of our beloved former colleague Andrew Caton. She analyzes the twinned history of revolution and romance in the American history of letters, demonstrating how these two Enlightenment concepts developed in tandem through the writings of figures such as John and Abigail Adams and Alexander and Elizabeth Hamilton. Katie's thesis establishes that not only is the personal political, the political is also personal.
Researching and writing this thesis has without a doubt been one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my time at Miami, but also one of the most rewarding. There are so many people I could thank to help me accomplish this, but I would like to specifically thank Dr. Schachenbach-Ragela and Dr. Hamlin for advising me during the hardest research and writing phases, and Dr. Michelle Navakis over in the English department for acting as my secondary reader and providing me with some extra source suggestions. Additionally, I'd like to thank Dr. Offenberger and Dr. Frazier for helping and getting us through the physical writing process, and of course, my family and friends for their never-ending support, even though I'm sure they've all heard more about this thesis than they would care to. Finally, I want to say thank you to this entire honors cohort. Without all of you and the mutual late nights spent panic writing, getting excited over sources we've stumbled across, and getting to know each other, this process would not have been nearly as meaningful or as fun, and our time working through this together has meant so much to me. Thank you.